In the quiet depths of the ocean, the crew submersible slowly descended through the deep shadows, enveloped in the thick stillness of the water. The massive structure unfolded before them, a scale that took each of them's breath away. Ataraxia was not just an abandoned city, but an ancient sanctuary with colossal temples, carved columns, and inscriptions that seemed to tell an ancient history. The light from the probe they used revealed monumental statues of tall creatures with dark green scales and intense gazes that seemed to stare at them from the darkness. They were representations of the Lazaru race, the reptiloid aliens that once populated this mysterious place. Ataraxia had been not just a colony, but a sort of spiritual capital of theirs, where they held sacred relics and technologies Earthlings never dreamed of. "These aren't just ruins," Jonas murmured, contemplating with a mixture of fear and fascination. "It's like someone, or something, left these marks for us." Nolan, curious and impulsive, comes closer to a central structure. And come to think of it, what species might have abandoned their underwater cities for no good reason? Their submersible began to be enveloped in a greenish-white light that seemed to emanate from beneath them. In the silence that had followed, a deep voice was heard, like an echo vibrating from the depths of the surrounding structures, which spoke an unknown word to them. Shukar. In the next moment, a group of tall figures appeared around them, their bodies surrounded by scaled armor and eyes glowing phosphorescent green. They were the reptiloids. Their leader, Karnal, looked at them calmly, speaking in a strange language, but which their translation equipment quickly picked up, beginning to convert into English. "Welcome to Ataraxia, our long-forgotten sanctuary," Karnal said. "We were forced to leave it, but it seems fate has brought you here, just as it once drove us away." The crew was speechless. Marla came to her senses first, with a question that seemed to be on everyone's lips. "Why did you abandon this place? What could force such an advanced species to leave such a city?" Karnal sighed. "Not by our will. An interdimensional parasite known as the Umbralith has corrupted this place. It affected our mind and body, forcing us to flee. It is an evil that cannot be eliminated, only removed." With these heavy words in mind, Jonas, Marla, and Nolan explore the city alongside Karnal and several members of the Lazaru species. As they entered dark corridors and ornate halls, they discovered carvings and artifacts that seemed to tell tales of epic battles between reptiloids and shape-shifting nightmarish creatures, representations of the Umbralith parasite. In a moment of carelessness, Nolan accidentally touched a glowing plaque on one of the temple's walls. A fine vibration spread around them, and the air seemed to grow heavier, charged with an unseen energy. At first, nothing happened, but gradually, a dark shadow formed in the corner of the room, flickering like a black fog that grew in intensity. "Don't touch anything!" Karnal shouted, but it was too late. The black shape had already grown and was beginning to slip through the sculptures, extending shadowy tentacles towards them. It was Umbralith, who had been awakened after thousands of years of sleep. "Quick, we must retreat!" Jonas shouted, but Karnal stopped, calm but determined. "We can't run away now. If Umbralith has awakened, there will be nothing left behind, and nowhere to hide." In a secret chamber in the heart of the city, Karnal showed the fishermen a huge device covered in runes and complex mechanisms. It was the Etherian core, an ancient reactor designed to emit an energy wave capable of driving the Umbralith back to its home dimension. But the core was damaged and in need of repair. "We'll need your equipment and your hands to fix it," Karnal said, pointing at Marla. "It's our only chance to seal the Umbralith, and whoever activates the device must stay here to monitor it." Marla, the team engineer, took a deep breath. "I understand. I know what needs to be done, but chances are someone won't come back from it." Jonas looked carefully at Karnal. "And you've always known that, haven't you? That's why you let us into your city, because you need us to activate the core." Karnal did not avoid Jonas's gaze. "You discovered Ataraxia. Fate brought you here, as it brought us. Without your help, the parasite will destroy us and consume everything we have left." After hours of work and joint efforts, the core was reactivated. The Umbralith that had wrapped itself around the structure of the city was sensing the activation of the energy and ramping up its attacks. Every crew member was preparing to fight for their lives. "We don't have much time left," Marla shouted, trying to make the last connections. At that moment, Jonas realized that the final reactivation of the core required direct monitoring, and someone had to remain to ensure the smooth functioning of the entire mechanism. He knew this was the end of him. Looking at the others with calm determination, he waved them goodbye and headed for the core's heart. "Go save them, Marla. Tell them our story. Share the truth." In a final act of heroism, Jonas stabilizes the flow of energy and activates the core, unleashing a burst of light that sweeps across the city and pushes the Umbralith back to its home dimension. The city of Ataraxia remained empty, without a trace of the parasite, but also without Jonas. The remaining crew leave the underwater city, returning to the surface with a mixture of sadness and gratitude. The story of the city of Ataraxia and the Lazaru reptilians was now part of their past and a treasure they had promised to keep safe. In a silent agreement, the reptilians and humans swore to protect Earth from any further interdimensional dangers, and Marla, bearing the memory of Jonas's sacrifice, returned home knowing that the existence of Ataraxia and Lazaru would remain safe, somewhere in the depths, the ocean. The city was in a state of siege. As the core began to release its energy, the shadows of the Umbralith parasite seemed to grow increasingly aggressive, spreading dark tentacles around the device. Each member of the crew felt the terrible pressure of responsibility hanging on their shoulders, but also the pain of Jonas's sacrifice, who had been left alone at the heart of the device. In the final moments before the core activated, Jonas felt the darkness of the parasite begin to invade his mind, trying to break his will. With final determination, he remembered his team, the sea, the purpose he was there for, and activated the core. A burst of pure light poured out of the core, enveloping the entire city and destroying the dark forms that retreated, howling, back to their home dimension. When the explosion stopped, silence fell over Ataraxia, as if the entire city had breathed a sigh of relief. Umbralith was gone, but with it, so was Jonas. After the core was activated, Marla, Nolan, and Karnal, along with the other surviving reptiloids, left Ataraxia in respectful silence. Each of them felt the burden of sacrifice, and in Karnal's gaze could be seen a mixture of sadness and deep respect for Jonas's heroic act. Reaching the surface, they made their way to their ship in silence, and when they finally got back on deck, Marla burst into tears. Nolan looked at her, and, voice shaking, said, "Jonas saved more than the city of Ataraxia. It saved our whole world." Karnal looked at them with his intense green eyes and said solemnly, "He did what we Lazaru could not. He overcame our own fear. In our galaxy Valara, we will remember the name of Jonas Marek for eternity, and I assure you that we will not allow Earth to fall prey to the parasite again." They make a pact, a promise of silence and protection, that the story of Ataraxia and Jonas's sacrifice will remain hidden until the world is ready to know the truth. After their return to land, life seemed to return to normal for Jonas's crew, but each of them felt the burden of the secret. Marla continued to work silently on the official reports, removing any reference to the Ataraxia, the reptiloids, or the danger they had faced. Only Nolan, the youngest of them, felt the need to share what they had experienced with the world. But a discussion with Marla prompts him to keep the secret. If people found out, they wouldn't understand, she explains. They would want to exploit, search for more, and finally destroy. We have a friend out there in the depths of the ocean, and they are watching over us now too. In time, Nolan came to understand these words. From time to time, he would meet Marla on the coast, sitting together in silence, looking out to sea. In those moments, each of them knew that Ataraxia and Lazaru existed in the depths, and Jonas always protected them, his memory still alive.